Welcome. So you're an engineer. You're fantastic at designing things, right? But how do you know if that brilliant design can actually become a successful business? Well, in this explainer, we're going to break down one of the most powerful tools for answering exactly that question: cost, volume, profit analysis.
Okay, let's jump right in. Here's our game plan. We'll start with the basics, what CVP even is. Then we'll get practical, calculating the break-even point and margin of safety. After that, we'll shift gears to aiming for a target profit and wrap everything up with a crucial reality check on CVP's limitations. By the end, you're going to have a powerful new tool in your engineering toolkit.
This is it. This is really the fundamental question that sits right between a great idea and a viable business. It's not about gut feelings or wild guesses. It's all about the numbers. And CVP Analysis, that's the method we use to find the real, data-driven answer.
All right, first things first, we have to get our terms straight. Understanding these next few concepts is absolutely the key to unlocking everything else we're going to talk about today.
So the very first step in any CVP analysis is to split all your costs into two main buckets. Think of it this way. If you're making, say, a circuit board, the silicon and the resistors, those are your variable costs. The more boards you make, the more you spend on those parts. Simple. But the rent on your workshop, the salary for your lead designer, those are fixed costs. You have to pay them whether you make one board or 1,000.
Now, this next concept is the real powerhouse of CVP analysis. It's called contribution. For every single product you sell, part of that sale price immediately covers the variable costs for that specific unit. The cash that's left over, that's the contribution. Its first job is to chip away at your fixed costs, and only after all those are paid off does it finally become pure profit. And here's the formula in all its beautiful simplicity. This equation right here is the engine of CVP analysis. Seriously, every single calculation we do from here on out is built on this fundamental idea. Sales value minus your variable costs equals your contribution.
Okay, so let's get to our first major calculation and see how this all comes together. We're going to use what we just learned about costs and contribution to find the single most important number for any new venture, the point where you make zero profit but also zero loss.
This is the break-even point, or BEP. It's your business's survival number, plain and simple. And the formula makes perfect sense. You just take your total fixed costs and divide them by the contribution you make from each unit. Why? Because it tells you exactly how many units you need to sell so that their combined contributions completely wipe out all of your fixed costs.
Okay, let's make this real. Imagine a company. Their fixed costs are $20,000 a month. You know, rent, salaries, the usual stuff. Each unit they make costs them $30 in materials, and they sell it for $50. Now, let's figure out their break-even point.
And you can see the formula in action right here. We take the fixed costs, the $20,000, and divide by the contribution per unit. So the contribution is the selling price, $50, minus the variable cost, $30, which gives us $20. So $20,000 divided by $20 per unit equals 1,000 units. This company absolutely must sell 1,000 units every single month just to cover its costs.
Okay, your turn to try. Let's say your fixed costs are $21 million. You're selling your product for $8,000, and your variable cost is $5,000 per unit. Using that formula we just covered, what's your break-even point? Go ahead and pause the explainer here, run the numbers, and we'll be here when you get back.
Knowing your break-even point is all about survival. But great businesses aren't just about surviving. They need a buffer. And that's where our next tool, the margin of safety, comes in. It tells you exactly how much of a cushion you have before things get dangerous.
Just think of the margin of safety as your business's financial buffer. It's the gap between what you think you're going to sell and what you absolutely have to sell to keep the lights on. A big margin of safety means you can handle a slow month. A tiny one means you're flying pretty close to the sun. So the first way we can calculate it is in units. It's just simple subtraction. Your projected sales minus your break-even sales. This gives you a hard number, the number of sales you can afford to lose before you start actually losing money.
But even more powerful is expressing this as a percentage of your projected sales. This is incredibly useful because it lets you compare the risk between totally different products or different business quarters, no matter what their sales numbers look like. All right, let's do another practice problem to make sure this is sinking in. Now, this one is a two-parter. First, you've got to calculate the break-even point using the formula from the last section. Then, use that number to find the margin of safety, both in units and as a percentage. Go ahead and hit pause and work it out.
Okay, we've talked about survival, and we've talked about safety. But let's be real. The whole point of a business is to actually make a profit, right? So now, let's tweak our formula to go beyond just breaking even and actually start planning for success.
Now, what's really cool here is how simple the adjustment is. Just look at the top part of the fraction. We've just taken our break-even formula and added our desired profit right next to the fixed costs. We're essentially treating our target profit like it's another fixed cost we have to cover. The logic is identical, but now our goal isn't zero, it's profit.
All right, it's time for the main event, a comprehensive problem, the kind you are very likely to see on an exam. This is where we put all the pieces together. We're going to use everything, contribution, break-even, margin of safety, and target profit to solve a single business problem.
Take your time with this one. Look at the data carefully. Your first step should be to calculate the contribution per unit. Then, just systematically apply each formula we've learned to answer all three parts of the question. This is the best possible way to prove to yourself that you've really got this down. Go ahead and pause here and work through it.
Look, CVP analysis is an incredibly powerful model, but that's what it is, a model. It's built on a few simplifying assumptions, and to use it wisely and to have a complete understanding, we have to know what its limitations are.
So, the most important thing to remember is that CVP analysis is a tool for making strategic decisions. It's not a crystal ball. It gives us a fantastic starting point, but we need to understand the fine print to use it well in the messy, real world.
Because in reality, things are rarely this clean, right? Some costs are semi-variable. If you get a bulk discount on materials, your variable cost per unit actually goes down. If you offer sales, your selling price isn't constant. This is exactly why CVP is a brilliant guide for decision-making, but it's not a perfect predictor of the future.
So whether you're trying to set the price for a new product, deciding if a project is just too risky, or even just figuring out how many customers you need to find in your first year, you now have the tool to get a real, data-driven answer. The only question left is, what problem are you going to solve first? Thanks for joining this explainer.